I'm Marty Stouffer. All of us, from the time we're little kids, learn about pigs and hogs, either the farm variety or the cartoon character variety. There's a kind of hog that not many of us know about. Wild hogs are not native to our shores, but they're now here to stay. There are thousands of them, and they're roaming wild all across America, from coast to coast. Unlike our opinions of the ones we see in the familiar barnyard setting, the wild ones are intelligent, intriguing, and familiar in a way. Yet even the people who live in the areas where they're found don't know much about them. You just may be surprised at how much wild swine differ from your usual ideas about cute, funny pigs and fat, lazy hogs. Join me now for a look at the unusual and sometimes violent and destructive behavior of the wild ones. Come along and see how, in many parts of the country, they're running hog wild. Of all the animal oddities, these creatures rank high on the list. Hogs. They were food stored on the hoof for early explorers. They came with Columbus to the Americas in 1493, and then later with Cortez and others. Some escaped the cook fires and went wild. Centuries passed, and today they still roam our southern woods. This is coastal Georgia, 10 miles south of Savannah. Rooting their way through life, they are probably best known by their snout, a flattened disc full of olfactory nerves. Nothing escapes their extraordinary sense of smell, not even buried insect larvae, worms, and tubers. Most people think of hogs as vegetarians, eating corn and other grains. But wild hogs will eat almost anything they can uncover or overcome, including other animals, dead or alive. Lizards, snakes, frogs, rodents, even deer fawns. Not always that predatory, hogs depend on acorns as an essential part of their diet. Here in Georgia, they're from live oaks. The species of oak varies in other areas, but the acorn crop, called mast, is just as important. The autumn abundance or scarcity of acorns means the difference between winter feast or famine. And the expression root hog or die is especially appropriate during a bad year. Unlike chubby domestic hogs, these wild ones grow up lean and mean. They can even survive the bite of a rattlesnake. It's thought that the layer of fat under their skin either absorbs or somehow neutralizes the venom. Females, the sows, and their young congregate in herds which may number from 5 to 50. The older males, the Boars, usually live alone, except for rejoining the herd when a sow is in heat. The tusks continuously grow and grind together. The harder top tusk works just like a whetstone, keeping the longer bottom tusk razor sharp. I can hear them in the distance, and with their keen hearing, they can probably hear me too. It's not long before I find them. The Boars cut open pine trees and regularly rub on them. This rubbing builds up a shield of thick cartilage and a layer of pine resin on their shoulders. These resin-coated shields are protection from the slashing tusks of other boars. With his sharp tusks and shielded shoulders, a boar is always ready for attack or defense. At the peak of their mating activity, this group is more aggressive than usual. Unless cornered, they normally avoid humans, and I don't mind avoiding them. They make it very clear that they don't like my intrusion on their privacy. Luckily for me, they have better things to do. Since hogs have no sweat glands, they're never far from mud wallows or water where they can cool off. Several boars often compete for the same sow, and although the fights are violent, they're rarely fatal. I continue to watch and discover there is a sow in heat nearby. In warmer climates, they mate year-round. The most amazing thing about the penis of a wild boar is not that it's 18 inches long, and it's not even that it has a peculiar corkscrew device on the end. The truly amazing thing is that it twirls around and around as the animals copulate. The meaning of a nibble on the ear, whatever he's saying, it must be pure pig poetry. But soft words will never replace primal urges. After mating, the boars, battle-scarred and weary, will return to their solitary lives. 3 months later, the pregnant sow breaks off and collects plant material to build her enlarged nest. A trail of chewed-off stalks leads me to it. The nest is a cleverly constructed hiding place for her newborn piglets. Because they're born nearly hairless, it's also a warm haven for their first week of life. Look at these little guys. You like to squeal, don't you? I know the sow must be nearby, but they're so cute that I hate to leave. Although these little ones already have the small, sharp canines that will eventually grow into tusks, they won't have large tusks for 2 more years. I also find this dead one. With 10 or more in a litter, a small newborn can easily be smothered by the sow. Since it's still wet from birth, these piglets must be less than 1 day old. Cautiously and quickly, I leave Mother Hog to her family duties. As a protective parent, she could be dangerous. Even little pigs can be fierce. They fight long and hard for their nursing position. Soon a suckling order is established. In this mini hierarchy, each little animal wins by having its own specific nipple. It's always funny to me that such a cute little baby can grow up to be such a, well, a not so cute adult. Milk is the piglet's mainstay until they're about 3 months old. Then they begin to sample other food. The growing piglets may be food for bears, bobcats, even alligators. Only about half the litter survives the first year. Those that do face better odds of making it to adulthood. A smaller piglet might have been a meal for the gator. This animal weighs about 30 or 40 pounds and is not yet a breeder, so it's known as a pig. When it reaches a weight of 120 pounds and starts breeding, it will become known as a hog. Wild swine range from the granddaddy of them all, the imported Eurasian wild boar, with small hindquarters and a straight tail, to the domestic hog, bred for large hindquarters, the hams, to the wild hog, about halfway between the two, only several generations removed from the barnyard variety. All 3 kinds live wild in many areas. Piglets with a large percentage of pure wild boar blood are camouflage striped, like this one, while domestic hog piglets are one solid color or spotted. But a wild hog's pedigree is of no concern to hunters. They're after an exciting chase, not a pure bloodline. They're often shot at this stage of the hunt, but catching one by hand and hog tying it is an even more dangerous challenge. Dogs, and sometimes hunters, often get killed in the process. Even when captured, the boar still defiantly sharpens his tusks. But when is a pig not a pig? When it's a peccary. This animal of the desert Southwest weighs only about 50 pounds to the wild hog's 300. The peccary is in a family all its own, and unlike the hog which came from Europe, the peccary evolved here in the Americas. The name peccary comes from the Brazilian Peccary, meaning animal that makes paths in the forest. In some areas, they're called by their Spanish name, javelina. Near their tiny tail is a scent gland. Pairs also rub head to tail, a means of scent communication. When disturbed or frightened, peccaries discharge a musky odor. Peccaries usually run from humans and are rarely as aggressive as wild hogs. The tales of them eating rattlesnakes are not true. But they do eat just about everything else the desert has to offer, including an unlikely item, the prickly pear cactus. After they break off the large spines, they chew up the cactus, small spines and all. It seems to do no harm. In hot weather, mornings and evenings are spent feeding, and afternoons are reserved for long siestas. The peccary lives here in Arizona and also in New Mexico, Texas, and down into South America. Wild hogs, however, live in the coastal plains from Virginia to Texas, in California, Hawaii, and here, the Great Smoky Mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina. In the Smokies, wild hogs have become quite a nuisance, as we'll soon see. 70 years ago, a dozen pure wild boars from Europe were brought to a private game preserve in North Carolina. They were fenced in and not hunted for 10 years. Then, so the legend goes, and a European-style hunt was held, complete with horses and spears. In the confusion, many of the pure wild boars crashed through the fence and scattered in the mountains. Over the years, they spread and mated with escaped domestic hogs, so that today's wild hogs are a 50-50 mixture. In theory, one breeding sow could have 7 million offspring in 10 years. In reality, they don't produce that many, but in California, they've been doubling their population every 6 years. They are by far the most prolific large animal in America. And all those little piglets have created one big problem. Their constant rooting literally plows up natural plant communities, pollutes streams, and causes erosion. In the 1950s, wild hogs invaded the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And today, these aliens compete with native wildlife for a limited acorn crop. They also eat wild turkey eggs, deer fawns, and certain salamanders, which are endangered already. This newfound home of the wild hog is the age-old refuge of the black bear. There are some records of bears killing boars, and some of boars killing bears. Even though the two species compete for food and living space, for the most part they avoid each other. Bear cubs and piglets are not yet aware of these facts of life. Most of the rooting damage is in the beautiful backcountry, where the heavily traveled Appalachian Trail goes through. More people visit here than any of our national parks. Because the National Park Service is dedicated to preserving only native species, the wild hogs must go. The management plan calls for their removal by shooting when possible or by live trapping. This can prove difficult. Hogs are intelligent, and some have even learned how to get out of the traps. You often catch a sow with piglets? Are you?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. But most of the time you hardly ever get the sow. Most of the time you get the pig. Once in a while you get the sow with the pig.
They're hard to trap.
So they're hard to trap.
Because they're...
Once they see pigs trapped in the trap, you know, they're hard to get to go in.
Are they as intelligent as everyone says they are?
Sure are.
Is that right?
Well, they're what I say the smartest, dumbest animal. They're dumb in some ways to the, you know, smart in others.
I'll be. It takes quite a while to catch them. How many trap nights do you think?
Well, trap nights some nights you go a week at a time and never get one, and, you know, according to the time of the year, they've got plenty of food, they're hard to catch. If they're hungry, they're easy to catch.
When finally trapped, the animals are released into open hunting, wildlife management areas outside the park. They still get shot at, but in the process provide sport for the hunting public. Even though hunters in America kill at least 100,000 a year, wild hogs are still expanding their range. Swine first appeared about 36 million years ago. They're 10 times older than man, and they've changed little since prehistoric times. all modern domestic hogs descended from the Eurasian wild boar, and sometimes it shows. The large one seen here is an escaped domestic, fighting his way back into the hierarchy of the wild ones. This is quite a contradiction of our usual image of the fat, lazy hog, and it's quite an assurance that wild hogs are here to stay. Sometimes desirable and sometimes controversial, there's been a lot of debate about what should be done with wild hogs. No one is arguing that they're in any danger of disappearing. The lesson to be learned here is that whenever we tamper with nature, we almost always create larger problems than we solve. And for better or for worse, these creatures are going to be with us from now on. In the future, we should certainly be more careful with animal imports from other countries. In this way, we can protect our own wonderful wildlife and not have a lot of foreign species running hog wild. I'm Marty Stouffer. Until next time, enjoy our wild America.